Then they took all that away and they right across the hill.
Yeah.
Back when I was just a kid. And then it just set up on big old rock pillars. Just was run, kid could run under if you wanted to. But we had a funeral there one time, and there's so many in that church, they thought it was gonna fall. Well, they decided to tear that sucker down. I got a picture of it somewhere or other, it'd take a week to find it. But anyhow, they pulled that down and built that little new one there, and then discharged it and went over and built this big one they got now.
That's a beautiful church.
And I remember one day we walked out there, and I got to looking up just for some fool reason, just looking up in the sky, and them guys that them got to looking. I really thought there's something up there, just an open sky. And they said, what do you see, Mr. Bryant? I said, nothing. They was all looking just like I was. There's nothing up there in the sky. You'd be surprised.
It goes to show you people will follow.
Yeah, they follow the leader.
Yeah. Well, what is your background? Where were you born? We won't tie all
You
you
were
know.
born in
Were you born in this county here?
Yeah, right down, you get the four-way stop on 332. Go on towards Pendergrass, just over the hill there about a mile. Five Forks they call it.
Okay, so toward from on 332
Well,
to
if
the
you
stop sign and go through the stop sign.
yeah, where that little
Yeah.
storehouse is, just go straight on 332, it goes Pendergrass. Jefferson. There's a road over it, just forks every direction. You call it Five Forks. 1921.
So you were born off 332 at Five Forks, pretty much.
Yeah.
We could say that about you. Okay. Was it called Five Forks then?
Yeah, it's always been. Well, there's only 4 forks there, but there's one, it goes out through the woods.
Yeah.
And nobody never knows it's there, but it's a road goes out to a house, they call it Five Forks.
Now, is that a Pendergrass address, or is that just?
No.
No, I'd say it's Jefferson or Houston.
It'd be Houston now.
Houston?
I don't know.
I don't know what it was till 1921.
So it's Five Forks close to, it's Five Forks, Georgia.
But there ain't no way in the
Close to
world you can put a little letter in that newspaper you got that will hold a story that I could tell you about being a prisoner of war. I mean, it would take.
Well, I tell you what we're doing is we're going to have quarterly a newsletter, but then we're also going to have a website. So what we can't put, we can put at the website.
that'd be nice.
If people want to read more, they can. You know, they can do that. But yeah, I bet you do have lots of stories.
Well, a little bit about you. This is something to know, did you go to school here? Where did you go to school?
Yeah, I went to school all my life, as long as I went in Jackson County. Well, right on past the store on 124 going through Jefferson. Well, that subdivision, what's the name of it? Right below Shorty's house.
Tradition.
Yeah, we farmed all over that hill where all them houses are.
What used to be here?
Nothing, just woods.
Woods. Well, didn't your mother and
Oh,
daddy
now that
live
might have
down
been
here?
years ago. They might have been something in here, but
Well, didn't you come home from service and they lived on
when I
this
come home
road?
from service, when you go out of my lower driveway here and turn right, about 200 yards down there, there's a little old house on the right there. My mom and daddy lived there, and that's where I come home from the army at. Just a little wooden house sitting there in the corner of the road.
Where?
Well, if you went out of my driveway, go down to the road,
Yeah.
332, and just go right around the curve.
Turn right.
Yeah, just right in the bend of the curve, there's a little wooden house sitting there, and that's where they,
That's where they lived.
yeah, that's where they lived. And that's
So you weren't married then, huh?
No.
I didn't know.
But you were born over at the Five Forks, so
Yeah.
they moved over here in the meantime, right? And later they moved over here.
Yeah. Well, now, yeah, that's where they lived. They moved from here over to a big house on 332 over there where, well, that's where me and her married.
So you were actually born down here then, and then they moved over there, is what you're
I
saying?
was born at 5 Forks.
Five Forks.
Not very far from
We
where
moved around several times. But we went to
You
long
also had a house down there where the BP station is now, didn't you?
time. Who?
Where the BP station
A
is,
two-story house.
on 124, there was a two-story house right there.
Oh, yeah.
You lived
but
there
you
for a
right
while,
beside
too.
White Plains.
Yeah,
We used to live right there in the house.
yeah.
But they were asking about your school. You went to school at
Jackson Trail.
Jackson Trail. It wasn't a private school, of course, then. Jackson Trail is Christian is a private
That's
school now,
community high.
but it was a
Went through
school.
the 7th grade.
Well, that was an elementary school back then.
Back then, they didn't call them that, they just school.
Jackson Trail, right?
Yeah. I was about one of the first ones who went to school down there in 36, I believe they built it.
And he learned to throw spitballs. That's what they called them.
Now, you got all this wrong.
Now, that's what you told me. You learned how to spitball.
You telling them something that you don't know about.
No.
Don't put down he learned how to do spitballs. Spitballs at Jackson Trail.
You probably get the.
Well, I tell you what,
No, he
did.
He did
That's all
play.
he learned
I
when he
could
was
throw a
here.
spitball if I wanted to, I wouldn't know how. But
He did play ball, basketball.
Yeah.
Daddy was a singer, one of these old-time country singers like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was in charge of the Jackson County Choir. That's what they called it. They'd meet every so often and sang all day long on Sunday. But that didn't have nothing to do with what she's talking about. He got this old man to come there to teach us boys and girls around there how to sing music by the notes.
The shape notes?
Yeah, like she knows. And well, we didn't particularly care, I guess. We just, it was muscadine time.
Yeah.
And we'd go out in the woods on the break and get a pocket full of muscadines. Old green muscadines. And every time he'd get blackboard right, we'd throw one at him. That's what she called spitballs.
That was your spitballs, yeah.
I don't know how you throw a spitball.
Same way you do muscadines on that.
I've heard of folks throwing a spitball, but I don't know how you do it.
I used to hear they spit them
No,
through
they
a straw.
spit.
Yeah, they do, they'll wet them.
They
and
don't
they'll
throw
throw
them,
them.
they
They
spit
used to do, that's why
But
schools
anyhow,
couldn't have straws anymore.
That's where she got
Spitball.
the spitball business.
Well, you don't throw them, you spit them.
Did you ever, did they ever do any of like the old Sacred Heart singing? Did you ever hear of any of that? Where they did the shape notes and they were the fa sol la,
Oh, that's what we
sol,
tried to
la.
learn.
Is that what that
Yeah.
was?
They called it singing school.
Yeah.
Daddy was a basketball player too.
Oh, really? Ted was
You
too.
got that, you got a picture or anything?
I did have, I don't know where it is now. Or
Did
not, I have
you play a local team here? Did you play?
I was just told team we had that Jackson Trail.
to, at school.
What'd
Yeah.
you play? You're tall.
I played guard.
Were you?
We never did win a game.
Yeah, I had to put that in there.
Let's see. Myself, Dole Goose, and Kenneth Brewer, he's a preacher now, but he retired from that. But Ralph Howard, there was 5 of us, a little team, and the high school principal, she put us in a little convertible A model, little Rumble seat A model, and go from school to school. She'd carry us to play ball. We had a lot of fun. We didn't care whether we got beat or not. The other team was just better.
Yeah, that was one of the most fun times of my life. I played high school basketball.
Well, now what we done, we been playing out on a dirt court most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, my daddy played like that. He tells a story
Yeah.
like that. Or what year, how did you get involved with the military?
They called me. I didn't
Right.
call them.
What year was that?
I'd say around 1944 or 5. I just
No.
forgot to tell you the truth.
You went in 45. They called you before then. I mean, you went,
Anyhow, they needed everybody they could get to fight World War II. And
it's 41 or 2. It's really
when
what
they
it
did,
41 or 2?
Because she was born in 45 and she knew you.
they sent
And
me a
you done got
letter.
out of service for that.
Greeted me a little bit and wanted me to come to Atlanta, and they wanted to talk to me. I went up to Jefferson, called the bus, and waved them all goodbye. I went out there to Fort McPherson, and they give me a nice little zoot suit to put on. And fooled around there a few days, and they put us on a train. And it's kind of funny when they say, now we're gonna put you on a train, we're going. They wouldn't tell us where we're going. It says, pack your toothbrush, pack your razor, you won't need them. Well, that meant we wasn't going far. Well, we still, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, pretty good piece to me. But we left there, Fort McPherson, and we wound up within Columbia, South Carolina. That was Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And that's as far as we got. And I took 10 months training out there. And then after 10 months, we went on maneuvers up in Tennessee. About a month, I guess. And then we went from Tennessee to Camp Atterbury, Indiana, and stayed, I don't know, a month or two. Then we left there and went to Fort Meade, Maryland, and hung around a while, and getting prepared then to go overseas. Then when we left there, we went to New York and got on a boat. And 13 days later, we were in England. It took us 13 days to go over there. We had one of them slow ships.
Slow boat
They
to
considered
China.
it fast back then.
The horses was kind of lazy. But what made it funny, I had 3 brothers, and we all got over there, but me and the brother just above me was in the same convoy,
Yeah.
and we didn't know it.
Oh, my goodness.
We left New York, and he left somewhere around New York, and he said when they left, there wasn't but one ship. He thought there was only the only ship out there that left at night, and we left late one evening, and the next morning we got up, and the whole ocean was full of ships, convoy.
Wow.
And that, we didn't either one know that the other was on another ship.
Was that because of the communication? You didn't have a good way of letting each other know, I guess.
Oh, yeah, no,
or
we
did,
don't.
or did
No,
they
it's
keep
not.
you a secret?
No, they didn't care for us to know it, but we didn't have no way to let me
So you were on one ship, he was on another. What about the third brother?
Oh, they was 102 vegetables out
The
there.
Yeah,
third
your
brother.
other brother. There were 3 of you, Daddy.
I don't know how Julian got over there. He
But there
got
were
over
3
there
of you over there fighting the war at one time.
4.
4 of you? 4 of,
Well, I was really the only one that was fighting the war out of 4. It's kind of funny. My older brother, he was been in the army a long time, and he was a male nurse. He was way on back. Well, the brother between me and the older one, he drove a Jeep for a captain, spy, run up and find out where these folks are at. And they'd run back and relay it to the folks doing the fighting. Well, if it got too hot on them, they'd get in that Jeep and they'd be gone. Well, when I got up there, they handed me a big long rifle, and I stayed. But I took my training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, in artillery, 155 howitzer. You might know what I'm talking about. 8 miles behind the fighting line. But when we'd shoot those shells, 100 pounds, and that big round out of this big cannon, it would go 8 miles in land.
That was a 5.5 howitzer, right?
155 howitzer. Well, I thought, I'd have it made, but when they got over there, we was replacements. And they put us anywhere they wanted us to go. Well, that didn't suit me too well. But anyhow, we was right up front. But my younger brother, when we was at home, he couldn't put a boil of water on the stove and boil it without scorching. And he made a mess sergeant. he was way on back, cooking. Mess sergeant, well, he wasn't cooking. he was just a mess sergeant. And that was, I was really the only one that was fighting.
So one of them was a male nurse, one of them drove a Jeep for a spy, and the other one was a male, as a mess sergeant.
Well, he wasn't a spy,
He drove the Jeep for the spy.
my second brother, between me and the older one, he drove a Jeep for a captain. They'd go up and see what's going on, you see, outpost. See, like they thought the enemy was against them, they'd go as far as they could in a Jeep, and they'd spy on these fellows and see where they were. Then they'd come back and relay it to the guys that was doing the fighting, and we'd know which way to move.
Well, now, were you the second oldest brother? How did that line up? You were
No, the older one was a male nurse, the next one was the one that drove the Jeep. Then I was the third one. Then my younger brother, he was a mess sergeant.
Now, did you have any other brothers then, or was that all?
No, that was it, we were all over there.
Wow, I bet your mother was,
I don't know. I know she worried, but she didn't really know what a war was all about. I mean,
Well, she had other babies she was tending to,
Yeah.
didn't she? Because there was like, how many of y'all?
13.
There was 13 of
well,
them.
Daddy was married twice, and he had 4 kids by his first wife, and about 9 by us, by my mother.
did your mother raise those 4 that, or were they already grown? when-
Oh, no, she raised all of us that was in the army together, 4.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
saying, all her 9 plus the 4 he
Yeah.
had, she
No,
raised
she
them
didn't
all.
raise them 4.
No, they were already,
Oh, they're already up, but,
So they weren't just you 4 boys, right?
oh no, there was 3 girls.
Oh. So there's 4 boys, 3 girls.
One either Reba
And then
one.
you had
I didn't
9 altogether, so you're missing somebody.
I guess
CH.
CH, yeah, CH noticed. Well, let's see, maybe I could name all of them, you don't have to write this down, maybe, but whatever you wanna do. There was CH, he was the oldest, then Otis, and then Garth.
What happened with Garth?
Garth,
He's
he was
one
a
that-
male nurse.
Garth.
GRTH, he was a male nurse, he said.
After Garth, and there was Roosevelt, he one drove the Jeep, and then myself, and then my younger brother. But there was the girls, how many were there? Yvonne, Juanita?
Yvonne, Juanita, and
I reckon it's 3 of those girls.
if there were
Well, you
9, there
just-
must have
you
been
just get
5
to
of
where I
them.
don't know where I'm at, really, I'm not trying to find all these people,
let's see, I don't remember.
but,
That's 8.
Juanita, Reba,
well, I said 8 or 9, I don't know.
Juanita.
Reba, Juanita,
Reba.
Yvonne,
That's 9.
well,
Oh, okay.
That's
She
way
gotta
back.
run some more film.
She didn't think to check the
I didn't know
camera.
she was-
Well, it's not, I don't think it's out. I think she's just going home before it gets out,
Yeah,
maybe.
I guess so.
So there was 9 for the first wife. And then how many for the second
No,
one?
the
No,
first
that was
wife
4.
was
4 by the first wife.
And
And
then 9
9.
by the second wife. Yeah.
Julie Phillips before she married my daddy, Charlie Bryant. But, there was quite a mob of us when we went to the table. I don't know how Daddy ever made it.
I don't need as big as
He
he,
did
if they were all
peas,
ate like he
cornbread,
did.
and buttermilk and English peas and cabbage is out.
was he a farmer?
Yeah, we farm what we call a shear farmer.
Yeah.
Sharecropper.
Yeah.
Well, how long were you in the service before this happened, before you became a prisoner of war? How did that all come about?
Well, I was over there a whole year on the front line. And when we went in,
Now, where were you at this time?
when I got captured, I was.
And now, where were you fighting this?
When you went to England, so you were
Well, I went to
fighting.
England, we just got over there, and that's the state
Right.
force where they carried everybody.
Right.
Then we went across the canal into France.
Uh-huh.
And then where they had the invasion, that's where we landed at and went on up. They had done gone way on up in France. And Germany was fighting. And if we had replacements, if we caught up with them, they'd take, I remember a lot of the bigger things, they carried us on up and up and up. And before we got into battle, they let us stay one night in this big, huge barn. I mean, it was big as a football field. And we was in there and spent all the night. And then the sergeant told us, now all y'all got to do is, when we get up in them once again and worry about, oh, he was really sugarfooting it up. We got out there, and the first guy said, y'all gonna carry the ammunition up for me. And for the guys, I don't know, just a few feet up, they was called the front line, but we was on the front line, didn't know it. And the little old creek down there, we had to get across this little creek by foot, carrying ammunition to them guys that was already been up there. So the first guy I seen, two or three fellows was carrying him on some stretchers, and his whole back end was blowed off. I think it was German, I don't know. But it's been so long, I can't remember whether it was German or American. Probably American. But they was up on the hillside, and we carried ammunition up there to them fellas. And it just got to where we was up there with the main crowd. And it was, them fellas know where we was at. They're not stupid, them Germans are not stupid. Because when we be going up through the woods, we hear a shell coming, and it would fall maybe 200 or 300 yards behind us. And then we go a little further walking. I wish I could walk now like I could then. But when further we go, every few minutes there'd be another shell coming, he'd be a little closer to us. I mean, they knew where you were. And we went on up and we dug in up there on the hillside.
Now where was this? This up in France, right?
Yeah, it was in France then.
Well, what town was it close to?
Well, there was small towns over there were small, and I remember I wound up in Frankfurt or Germany, but these smaller towns, I can't tell you the name of them to save my life.
So you were over there fighting, didn't know where you were,
I didn't know where that, didn't know one town from another, so I did, I couldn't pronounce it. But anyhow, we'd go through these little old villages, they call them villages, say like Houston or Brunswick or Winder, or we'd go through them things and maybe hover up for the night. It'd slow up a little at night. Then the next morning we'd go on, but we didn't know the name of the little town. And we dug in the side of a hill up there, and you have to use the bathroom every once in a while. And you had to sneak out in foxholes, find your place to use the bathroom, and about time you got out of that hole, yeah, they sure did. They smoked us out and burned us out. So we went out this runway up into the barn. The barn had a hallway in it. It had a loft on each side of the way. And some of the guys went up the wall, ladders or something, and got in the hay up there and hid. I'd rather been dead than hid in that barn, because if you really left there by yourself, you wouldn't know where to go to nothing. So Germans couldn't have been but just a few feet out there, they'd throw hand grenades and hoping they'd come in that hall where we were, but everyone they'd throw would hit the side of the barn, but never did come into the hallway where we were. We were laying down. Well, me and two more guys decided we better do something. So we run back out of that hallway, and there was a rock wall. That seemed to be about that high. You could get over it pretty good by jumping and rolling. So every time one of our friends would go over that rock wall, the Germans sitting like that here with a machine gun. They just mow him down. Well, one of the guys said, "Bryant, don't go over that brick wall." Every time one would go over it, he's gone. So there was three of us together. Well, we run back and got in this cow stable. and, I'd say at the calf stable. But it was clean, the floor was as clean as that right there, is cement, not a soul, not nothing. And I don't know where the good Lord got this piece of toilet tissue, but it's clean toilet tissue, about this long, this white toilet tissue. And we took it, and one of the guys hung it over the barrel of his gun and stuck it out the door, and that's when they come and got us. We give up.
So you weren't cow barn then when they got you?
Well, that's what I was wondering when,
Yeah, it sure was.
I was wondering how you kept them getting killed. I mean,
Well-
why they didn't kill you, but it was because you,
We give up, and they just had mercy on us, and that's not to shoot us. They was 3 of them. Well, they took us out of there and started marching us down through the field. It was cold weather. It was snow on the ground. It was cold. Well, we went on across that field with this German soldier, and went down there.
what were you thinking then? Do you remember what you were thinking?
No, ma'am. I was thinking what's coming next. Well, we went down through this field piece, and it was some German trucks just sitting down there. They searched us, made us lay everything we had in our pocket up on the hood of the truck. Well, they wanted what we had because it was better than what they had, knives, whatever. I was glad to get rid of what little junk I had. I didn't have much. And they wouldn't keep theirs and ours too. They'd keep ours and lay theirs up on the truck. They wasn't allowed to. I guess they wasn't allowed to keep both parties, knives and watches, whatever.
It's strange, isn't it?
Anyhow, they decided to take us on a little further, and we was marching down across the field. It snowed on the ground, cold. Well, they was some Americans that already up there fighting, and we run across this one American, and I guess it hadn't been cold as it was, and he was done been dead, but he was laying there, and I guess he was more or less frozen. And we asked if we could help him. And this little old German guard that was carrying us back there, we couldn't stop no way. He said, no, the American medics was coming after him, but he didn't live, couldn't have lived. His whole back end from here, that was the second one I'd seen with a back end shot slap off, just like a rabbit. And we went on a little further, and there's some, I don't know, I'm sure he knows what a pillbox is in the war, or do you?
Yeah.
They dug in the ground 5, 6,
Right.
8, 10, 15 stories down.
Right, we saw that. I've seen them.
All right, and we wanted to go down in one of them because they kept shooting in there, Americans shooting in there, and the Russians and everybody was shooting right in there where we were at. We were right in the middle of it. So they wouldn't let us go down in those things. We just had to do the best we could outside. And them shells would fall, and the ground was so hard, till 100 or 200 pound shell wouldn't go in the ground that deep. It just hit like an egg, just splatter. And we stayed there then till, as sometime up in the day, we stayed there till night, just walking around, doing the best we could.
So y'all just stayed exposed over the top of the ground, right?
Yeah, right on top of the ground. And just before night, there's a little town out there, they call them villages. It was on fire. I mean, the whole town was burning up. Buildings, everything. So we went through that building, through that little town, and dodging fire and everything else, and went down the street, and we got on out of town. Then, I don't know how far it was, but we walked some distance, I don't remember how far, but we come to this other town, and had this huge building in it, and upstairs to it. And at that time, we had done got up to 90 people, soldiers, prisoners.
Mm.
So they made us go up these steps and get in this one room up there, 90 of us in a room. Well, it was a pretty good sized room, but we, nothing to lay on, you just sit down against the wall and lean up against each other, sleep if you could or couldn't. But they had one of these old drums like they used to have like way back in the Yanks out on the side of the road. We used that for a bathroom. We all used that one, whatever you wanted to call it,
Mhm.
is a chamber we used to call them around home.
Yeah.
We all had to do our business in that one thing. It just sat there wide open. And there was 90 of us in there using that thing. And we stayed in there about 8 days in that one room. Wasn't
Did
allowed.
they feed you okay and everything?
No, that's the trouble. It's give us enough food to stay alive.
And a teaspoon of sugar a day, wasn't it?
Huh?
Teaspoon of sugar.
That wasn't then, honey. That was after. That's a little further on. I get to that.
That was when you got to the good stuff.
Yeah, that's a good stuff.
What did you actually get? What you said enough to stay
They
alive?
give us a little piece of bread or maybe a little cup of coffee for breakfast. You could add salmon cans clean, and you could drop a dime in the bottom of that thing and you could read the letters on it. It's so thin. I mean, it tastes like coffee. And I don't remember, I know they fed us a little bread while we was up there. And their bread over there, sir, was made out of wheat, black wheat, and iced potatoes. There was an iced potato line about that far from the bottom. It's just potatoes, and I don't know how they done it. They took this wheat dough and put on top of it and made a loaf of bread out of it.
Yeah.
You could cut it, didn't you? Well, it was all right.
When you weren't getting anything
Yeah.
else, huh?
So we, there's two abreast. There's 90 of us in a row. And they had food in a bag, and we weren't allowed to eat it. They give this bag of food to one soldier up in the front lines. I got real close to the front head line. Oh, we carried for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and we passed it to the guy behind us. And we done that to get all the way to the back. We marched all day long. Then, when it went to the left, and they bring it back to the front and started all over again. Because one man just couldn't carry that all day. And they stopped sometime
That was
here.
their food.
Huh?
You were carrying their food?
No, it was our food.
Your
It was
food,
their
but you couldn't
food.
eat.
It was their food, but they give it to us.
How did you get it back to the front of the line? They just passed it right quick
No,
up there?
but no, one of the German guards that carried back up there.
Okay.
There was a guard behind, one in front. And the little guard in front, he didn't look to be over 15 years old. But we had to listen to him. And whatever he said, that's what we done. And it just went all day like that. And I just don't know how far we did march. Marched all day long till we got to Frankfurt, Germany. And we was all about dead. And they put us in this building. I think we stopped during that march and eat that stuff we had in that bag somewhere along the line. They let us stop a little bit. But when we got to Frankfurt, Germany, I hear a lot about Frankfurt, Germany now. It's a big town. We spent the night there. Next morning I got up, my leg right here felt like it was that big around. Hadn't been no exercise in about 8 days, fastened up in that room. So about midday they put us on this car box. Well, the top of that thing was full of holes where the Americans had shot holes in it, you know. With one little window in about that big square, and everybody wanted to look out that window, but we just take a turn about looking out, and you couldn't see nothing, just trees and snow.
It's a train car now, right?
It's a train car, old car box.
All 90 of them?
There was 90 of us on that car box. We was all staying together. But then we left there. They wouldn't move that train till dark. And after dark, we started rolling. And Frankfurt, Germany must be a long ways from where we was at. Because we rode all night long, laying on top of each other, laying on the side of the walls. Well, like I said, we rode all night long and all day the next day on that train. Till late that evening, we finally got to this camp where we was gonna be, Stalag 4B. And there was a
What?
Stalag 4B.
Stalag?
Stalag
Yeah, start like 4B.
4B.
That was a prison.
That's the prison, the name of the prison camp. And there was 10,000 there.
Good gravy.
There was every nationality in the world you could think of there. There's every country you could ever think of there. Some of them have been there 5 or 6 years. And there was Englishmen there, and there was soldiers there from all other countries you could think of. And then had these old buildings looked like chicken houses. Had brick floors in them, no heat, no nothing. And it was in kind of in the winter time because it was along about April when I got out, but it was cold when we got there. We did not know, we slept with the clothes on, and two to the little old bunk made for one. It was about that wide, and if he turned over, I'd turn over. And then, that's right, we'd sleep with our overcoats on. And if it's like it is now, he wouldn't have slept with me too long ago. I twist and turn a lot now. But
So for 2 people, the bunk was for 2 people.
No, the bunk
Made
was
for
for
one.
one. It was
But
made
two.
for
But
one.
you put 2 on it.
there was 2 of us in, the only way they let us sleep. We wouldn't have room for everybody. But we stayed there, and there was, I think there was a bunk above us for one man. But anyhow, that lasted. They weren't supposed to make us do nothing on the Geneva Conference. We couldn't, well, there wasn't nothing to do really. But they had no furnish, no brick furnish there in the middle of that room. I don't know what they done with it. And I don't know what they used them buildings for. But anyhow, there was land out there and it was real sandy. And you could take a tree that big around and just yank it right up with your hand. And there'd been a fire out there. About a mile from where we stay in camp, but they did make us go out there and we'd pull those little dead trees up that'd been burned. And they'd make us pull them up and bring them back to camp where they'd burn them in that little furnace. But it didn't help us none now. I mean, that thing was so big and a rock floor and it cold. I don't know why they made us do it, but that's where she's getting down to what we had to eat. They raised millions of tons of iced potatoes over there. And every morning, they'd make these other soldiers that wasn't under the Geneva Conference, all the soldiers except the American soldiers, they had wagons over there that would haul 2 dump trucks full of anything, you just put it in it. And they built kind of like this, and the wheels was that wide and this high. And had a wagon tongue in it. Well, they make these A-ramps and things, pull that wagon way off over there somewhere, and they come back with it about an hour or 2 later, full of iced potatoes, raw iced potatoes. So, one morning, we were out laying in the sun about 9 or 10 o'clock. We lay it kind of out beside the buildings, kind of getting warm, the sun was shining. And this, I don't know whether he was American or Englishman. He was one of the 2 run and grabbed the potato off of that wagon. And there was a soldier, German soldier, had this big gun with the wagon. He was guarding the potatoes. So he hollered, and we knew what he was hollering, stop, stop, stop. That guy just wouldn't throw that one iced potato down and cost his life.
Hmm.
He run right down in front of where we was laying out in the sun, and he got so far, and that German guard just couldn't get him to stop. He just kept going. Well, he stopped all right, with a bullet in his back.
So he just kind of went crazy then, probably.
He was hungry. I was hungry too, but I wasn't that hungry. I mean, I could make it another day.
Well, you got one, and
He got one iced potato cost his life.
one like to cost you yours too.
Well, yeah, what she's getting at now, while I was a prisoner, they had this big, huge farm up there. They had these beautiful black and white Holstein cows, and this big, huge pastures, big cluster of barns. So we get out, we was liberated at that time. We just get out and just walk around anywhere we want to go.
That was after you'd already been released?
No.
No, we hadn't been released.
And you were still getting basically bread?
Oh, what a, I guess I'm jumping the gun a little bit there.
Yeah,
You
so
said you were liberated, though. I was wondering what.
Yeah,
What he meant was liberated in that they let him out of that building and roam
Okay.
Yeah.
around.
Just,
what I was getting at about the iced potatoes, they bring them down and go cook them. Then they bring them up there to where we was at in the barracks. And they had, there's 200 of us in the barracks. And one man would be in charge of about 6 people. Like I had 6 people I'd look after and see if they got what they shared. So the sergeant, he was a sergeant, he looked after us 6, and he had a table or something on the floor, I don't know what it was, and he'd pick out the biggest iced potatoes in that pile. They allowed just so many for that one man to give us, and they allowed the big one here, and the big one here, and the big one here, and the big one here, till he had 6 biggest iced potatoes laying side by side. Then he'd go back and get the next biggest one. He'd lay it right in front of that one, in front of this one. That's the way they fed us. And then he'd go get the next biggest potato and lay it, and when he got through, he'd have 6 lines of potatoes. And you couldn't tell one line from another, and they were all the same. And he was honest about it. So we sat there and watched them, line them up. Then we get down to the bottom, there might be a piece of potato no bigger than that, be right on the table of each one of them. And he had a deck of cards, and you take that deck of cards, and like I drew the highest deck, the highest card, I could pick out either row I wanted. No difference in
It
it.
made a game in it.
There wasn't no difference in the rows. So I said, I'll take this row here. Well, I'd get my potatoes, and the next guy, he'd draw another, and there's 5 lines left, and he'd just pick out either one he wanted. And they were all, you couldn't tell them, they were big eyed potatoes, they just kept coming down a little.
Is that the way all of them did, or was that just
No,
the way
that's
he
just the
did?
way, yeah, I showed the whole band of 200 people, they all done it.
Uh-huh.
But we just in a little group by ourselves.
Uh-huh.
And after those 6 lines of potatoes picked up, we could eat them all at one time, or save them and just eat one potato every hour or so. And they were ours, and about twice a week to give us, like she said, 1 spoonful of sugar, about twice a week. And we just gobbled it down right there. We didn't have to keep it. No wax paper, no Ziploc bags. And
So how'd you do your potatoes? Did you eat them all at one time? or did
no,
you...
I make about 2 meals out of it.
So how often did they do that? Did they give
Once
you
a
that?
day.
Okay.
And that was our main course. And everyone for breakfast, it's like I said, they had these cans of salmon, something come in, and they was clean. But they'd bring a big old pot up there with coffee in it, and each one pour that little coffee in these little old cans. No sugar, no cream, no nothing. I mean, you're just glad to see it. And just stained water what it was. And we just drank that down while it was hot. But that's all we got then, so
That was all the liquid you
that's
got?
all the liquid we got. And then about twice a week he'd give us 1 slice of bread. So we had to make out on that. And we spliced it out the best we could to make it last all day. But man, you just stayed hungry all the time.
Mhm.
So, there's one old boy there, he was really undernourished. I don't know how he got that way, just been there so long, till he just wasn't fed enough to keep him going. Well, we was out one morning walking, they make us get out and walk on the ball field. And he didn't go walk, he was just left in there. Well, he might have been some more. But anyhow, one of the guys like me had hid his piece of bread under his pillow. Well, this guy knew where it was at and he got it. Well, he got it all right. But when they found out about it, the main sergeant that was in charge of us, whole 200, he was a prisoner too. But he got us all together and rounded us up and stood that little old boy up out there. He said, now this guy right here stole this man's bread. And he said he had the same bread that he had. But he stole this man's bread and said, now this man's going to have to go hungry without his bread all day. Because this weasel little old guy starved him to death, stole it. And the main man told, I didn't touch him myself. I wouldn't been nothing I could have done. But he told anybody wanted to now just get up here and just beat him in the pub if he want to. And he got one of the great big old robust and guy got up and hit him right in the face, just as hard as he could hit him, knocked him flat on the ground. We was inside a little building. But he done that time too. Then he'd step back and another guy'd get up and do the same thing. And they knocked that poor rascal down so many times till it was pitiful. And finally, they knocked him down so much that he couldn't get up. Well, two more of these prisoners, of our men, got down and picked him up. And he let this guy hit him anywhere he wanted to, mostly in the face. Hit him, and they turned loose, he just dropped like a wet feather. And they done that, so I reckon they decided they wasn't going to kill him. The main man's in charge, he said, well, I don't think he was stealing nobody else's bread. So that was the end of that show, but we were all gathered around.
But he didn't kill him.
Nah, he didn't kill him. He might have died later, but he was in bad shape. He was American. He was in bad shape. Old fellow, just like have you ever seen an old dog? He just bones, nothing but bones.
Yeah.
That's just what he amounted to. They just beat him till he couldn't even stand up. He couldn't even crawl. But that went on, I guess there's 7 or 8 people done him that way. Beat him.
What did
So
you
that
do?
broke-
What
that
did
broke
you
that
do when you
little
got your
party up.
potato? Tell them what you did when you got your potato.
Do what?
Tell them what you did when you picked up a potato.
Oh, I ain't got around to that either.